Jim Goss is doing his presentation right now.
And I guess, do I need a microphone to be heard by them?
You should be picked up by that one.
Okay, good.
That should be good enough.
Norm, can you hear me?
Yes, Jim. I always hear you.
I can hear it too.
Okay, great. I'm going to rewind the tape and start all over again since you didn't hear any of what I started with. But I'm here representing Orrin Thomas and Sons, and sitting next to me is Krista Thomas, who is one of the Thomas family. And we're here at the Planning Commission's invitation to hopefully demonstrate to you that what I'm going to refer to as new Tract 1 on their Post Road property does not require any other approvals from the town in order to be sold in its present condition. I have put on the desks of the members who are here some handouts, and they fall basically into three categories. First, there's an outline that goes through the entire conveyancing and map history of this parcel so that you can actually follow it through. Then there are a stack of permits and deeds. The first one of those says RT-276 at the top. And then most importantly are the series of plans and maps that have been prepared in connection with the conveyances and then also filed with the town in connection with various approvals that have been obtained. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what happened and sort of demonstrate why this Tract 1 in its current configuration doesn't require any further subdivision approval, and also point out a couple of errors on the town maps that you may want to solve after the fact based on that. Just by way of background, anybody who's been in Rutland County since the 1960s, like I have, at least being aware of it, knows that Orrin Thomas and Sons used to be probably the largest dairy operation in Rutland County and one of the largest ones in the state. It was very long-standing. It had a gigantic dairy operation, sold milk and all the rest. Unfortunately, as the 1970s and 80s started to pass, the dairy industry started to decline, and very slowly they sold off their herd, and then ultimately the pandemic finished off their milk operation. And now the family is in the process of basically liquidating their holdings, which includes all of their land and the various improvements. One of those holdings was a large parcel of land located on the south side of Post Road, which is the property that we're talking about this evening. And you can see in the first map, which says side B in the lower right-hand corner, that is sort of the layout of this property and where it is on the ground. In May of 2010, Orrin Thomas and Sons received a subdivision permit, RT-276, which is the first one in your permit pile, to divide this property into 4 tracts of land. And I've listed what the acreages are. And you notice that Tract 1 is the first one at 32.49 acres. In connection with that approval, they filed this first map that says side B in the lower right-hand corner. And what I have done there is I have highlighted the boundaries because it is confusing to look at. I mean, it is kind of smashed. I've highlighted the boundaries of the lots and then labeled them according to the tract number. This map is on file in its full-size version in the town record. So if you need to see the full-size version and see that I've correctly documented the boundaries, that's where it is. You will notice that in the Mylar, the Tract 1 corresponds with the acreage in the permit of 32.49. There are a couple of discrepancies with the other lots between the Mylar and the permit. I don't know why that occurred because this is before my time, but with respect to Tract number 1, the acreage depicted on the plan is exactly the same as the acreage that was approved to be subdivided in the permit. The next item in that pile of permits and deeds is the deed from Orrin Thomas and Sons that conveyed what is depicted on that slide B as tract number 3 to the United States government. And that is where the Army Reserve Center is located right now. There are a whole bunch of easements that also were conveyed in connection with that parcel. And in response to a question that came up at the last Planning Commission meeting, all of these parcels of land have reserved easements over what is shown as Tract 2 on this first map. So nothing is landlocked. And in addition, what is shown as Tract 4 also has access over town streets, which are highlighted in orange on the right-hand side of the map. So there are easements that are reserved for access and utilities to all of these parcels of land. So in any case, at that point, the deed was given to the United States government for tract 3, and then also a bunch of other easements, as you can see. Tract 1, 2, and 4 remained as approved in that first subdivision permit. So a short time after that, they filed another Mylar called side C and D, which is the second sheet that you have in front of you there. That is exactly the same plan as what I just indicated, but it's what's called an ALTA survey, which just means that it was an actual survey of the boundaries depicting where the lot lines were, so that the title insurance company could delete what's called the survey exception in their title insurance property. But it's exactly the same map. I'm only making reference to it because this map is also apparently recorded with the town, and I just want to account for all the maps as I'm going through here. So one thing I want you to notice, though, on the second map that's in that sheet, that the one that says side D in the lower right-hand corner, do you have that in front of you? Okay. You will notice that between what is shown there is tract 1 and tract 4 and the southern side of the parcel, there is a little sliver of land that goes around the back of lot 3. And you'll see that there's a small subdivision line between lot 4 or tract 4 and tract 1. Can you all see that?
Yep.
You see what I'm talking about? There's a red arrow that's actually pointing to it.
Yep.
That's something that's important to bear in mind as we work through this, because there's a point where, for whatever reason, the maps lose track of that subdivision line, but that was approved in this first subdivision permit, and it has never been unapproved, and I'll explain why that is the case. So everything sort of sat where it was until 2021. And at that point, Orrin Thomas and Sons was issued subdivision letter number RT-311, which I've also included there. And I've also included the notice of that subdivision proceeding. And that was in connection with a conveyance to one of VELCO's subsidiaries. So if you go over to the next set of maps, and that's something that has new tracks at the bottom of it, you all see that? This was a survey that was prepared in connection with that conveyance to VELCO. And what that subdivision permit sought permission to do was to basically chop off the northerly part of original tract number 1, and then also chop off the northerly part of original tract number 4, combine them together and make that new tract number 2. So basically what you have now is the whole upper part of the property, including that access road parcel, is all parcel 2. And then new tract 1 is shown with the new boundary. Tract 3 remains the way it is. And then new tract 4 is again with the top portion cut off. This survey is what was submitted in connection with the subdivision for the conveyance to VELCO. You'll notice down at the bottom of that survey where I have a red arrow that the surveyor lost track of that subdivision line. The reason for that is, if you go over to the second sheet of this survey, he's got a little note called Note 10. And what he basically says is, listen, the only thing that I surveyed here was the land that was being conveyed to VELCO. I didn't go back and look at all the lot lines for all the other lots. So he didn't make any warranty about that whatsoever. So that line, in point of fact, is still there. The subdivision permit to VELCO did not propose to remove it. The notice of the permit did not say it was going to be removed. So for all intents and purposes, there is still a boundary line right where that arrow is, as it was approved in the original permit. So bottom line at that point is that that new tract 2 that I have on that map was then conveyed to VELCO, and there is the deed that actually shows that, that's included in your package. So what we have now is original tract 1 with that northerly portion conveyed away to VELCO, and that is basically the way the property sits right now. All the Thomases want to do is to convey away new tract 1, which is essentially old tract 1 with the VELCO piece removed. Again, the real confusion may be arising from the fact that the surveyor in the VELCO transaction left out that little subdivision line at the end. So if you go to the end, the very last map where I marked up side D, that shows things the way they are now. And what I've outlined in orange are basically the current property lines for tract 1 and tract 4, which are the ones that remain unsold. And all that the Thomases want to do is to convey new tract 1. We don't believe that there is any further subdivision approval because it's basically been a process of elimination. One step at a time, the parcels have been removed. So what you are left with is what you're seeing here. And the survey description is going to follow those boundaries accurately. Again, I want to stress that I have little orange lines on this marked up side D survey showing that there is access to all the lots over the common access road that leads into the reserve. And then tract 4 has independent access off of the local town roads. So there are no landlocked parcels as part of this. The last maps I included for you are town maps. I believe that they're tax maps because this came up in some of the discussion as well. And there are some errors on that. And I don't know whether they've been corrected since then, but what you see here is that the little subdivision line between tracks 1 and 4 that was approved in 2010 is not shown. That's an error in the map, and it probably needs to be put back in there because those are still segregated lots. The other thing is that in what I think is the 2019 map, the southerly boundary of lot 3, which is not really at issue here, is shown incorrectly. That may have been corrected on the 2022 map. And I'm just really bringing that to the town's attention. So if there are corrections that need to be made, that can be made. But again, really what we're looking for here is tonight is confirmation that existing new tract number 1 doesn't need any more permits. It's already been subdivided. It's already received the 2 approvals that it needs, and that the Thomases can go ahead and convey it away to a third party.
Very informative.
And
I
by
think
the
we
way,
understood that at the last meeting. The question was the complications with the way and the timing and what I had made an original motion. I retracted my motion because Norman had what he considered a more succinct motion, which has led to you coming and providing us with the information that you have. If I may, Barbara, I would start by asking just a couple of questions to help refresh my memory. You've mentioned 2010 map, 2019 map, and 2022 map. My first question is, when was new tract 2 subdivided?
new tract 2, tract 2.
Well, what you have here on, it's the yellow outline that is all of tract 2. It's labeled new tract 2.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that was subdivided in connection with the VELCO transaction. So that would have been in 2021.
Right.
And that was permit number RT-311. The permit itself is actually just a letter that says approved, but if you look at the application and the notice of the proceeding, what it was proposing to doing was actually to subdivide that northern line and create what is essentially new tract 2.
Right, because that was part of, that tract was expanded from the original, which I know we had a conversation about. So that was probably, I can't remember. Do you know when the original, or can you tell me succinctly when the original map with tract 2 being only basically the egress to tract 3, for which we approved an easement?
That was 2010.
Yes, 2010. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to, because I've been here a while now and I'm just trying to.
And then ultimately that little tract 2 was expanded to include all the land on either side of it. And that's what was conveyed to them.
And that was done in 2021.
Correct.
Right, because I remember that being one of the questions, huh?
In your time.
Yes.
In my time.
Yeah.
But I remember that being one of the questions in terms of the designation of the parcels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
So there was another question also in my time about the egress or the access from tract 1. I don't see it marked on here, but I know that there is one. I think I have an idea of where that's supposed to be, but if you could just refresh my memory, that would be great.
Tract 1 will have an easement over the access road. It also has direct access to Route 7. And at one point, I think that there was a collision shop or something like that that was proposed on that property, and it could actually have direct access from that way.
Right, it just needs to be, there currently isn't a curb cut or anything to,
no.
right. And the
There
access
is.
road, excuse me, just so I have my thinking straight.
Yeah.
That access road runs along the southern boundary of, tract one, is that correct?
The access road from 7, you mean?
Well, you said the access road. You said there's also access.
South,
No,
South
the
Post
two.
Road.
The access road is.
Off of two. I see it. Yep,
is the
yep.
access to
yep.
the Army Reserve.
Right.
All of these lots have easements over that.
Got it.
road.
Okay. That's it. That's all I needed to remember.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's, going to be a solar development, right?
Correct.
Okay.
New
Tract one.
tract one is going to be a solar field.
And there is access to Route 7.
Yes.
There already is, yeah.
Yep.
And in point of fact, your say-so is the last thing that we need to make that transaction happen. There are a lot of people who are pulling their hair out over this meeting tonight.
So, Howard,
I gotta say is, I remember when we did the bit for VELCO, we had a lot of discussion about it just being a boundary line adjustment.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
that's the way it went, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it
Yes.
probably was. I mean, the way that the record reads is kind of hard to tell, but it's sort of a distinction without a difference. I mean, basically, you still have 4 lots out there, and the boundaries were just rearranged. That's correct. So I'm referring to it as a subdivision permit, but I think it was treated as a boundary line adjustment and nothing more.
but we made everyone go through the subdivision protocols.
Right. Yeah, it was the same process. It just had a
Yeah.
different name.
What you're saying is right. The very first 4-lot subdivision has it laid out just the way
Yep.
the way it was done. And that little piece behind the south of the reserve center there, that was for the water line. They tapped the city water line to the east for the armory, and they brought it in, and that little strip of land was put there so that if we wanted to continue with the water line to the, let's say, to lot 1, it provided a spot to bring that water through.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's correct. I recall hearing that at one point.
Howard, what do we need to do at this point?
Nothing. I mean, it's,
Why is it work?
as I see it, it's a lot that certainly doesn't need to be a subdivision. It's a lot.
What
It
we would
does.
actually like is a
It's
vote from
in
the
the budget.
planning commission confirming that no further approvals
There
are
it is.
necessary in order to convey new tract 1 and I guess new tract 4 as well, because that's the last remaining lot.
Right.
It's just.
Do any,
it's the state.
parcel maps you mentioned that may need to be changed?
So it does.
Anything else?
Well, the town maps are not correct. The
Yeah,
town maps
That's
is,
that's already in verb. To be changed.
okay,
Okay.
good, very good.
Just like.
Okay, does any further discussion or someone want to make a motion?
I just had a question.
Yeah, Norm.
If I understand this, and I'm sorry I'm not there or don't have the maps, but if I understand all of this correctly, Jim, is that if that line had not been inadvertently removed between lots 1 and 2, you wouldn't be here.
I honestly don't know the answer to that because I watched the video of the last meeting and there seemed to be just sort of general confusion about the situation because the maps that I submitted were not very clear. And I did not give you the detailed analysis of the conveyancing and the permitting. And that probably is on me because once you get into the weeds with these things are obvious that are not necessarily obvious to other people. So I'm actually glad I was able to come in and give you sort of a detailed summary so you actually can compare it to what's in the town records and see what actually happened.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it, Norm, but I think there may have been other issues as well.
Well, we couldn't read them. At least speaking for myself and perhaps for others, we found the original information puzzling. But if I understand you correctly, if that subdivision line between 1 and 2 had not been removed and was appropriately reflected in the records, that subdivision permit already exists, the boundary is shown, and it wouldn't be an issue. Is that basically your position?
Between 1 and 4, that's correct.
1 and 4, excuse me. Okay.
Norm, would you make a motion to accept those lots as they are? Those tracks,
Well, Barbara, without
1 and 4.
1 and 4.
you're asking me to make the motion?
Yeah,
Well, Barbara, I feel uncomfortable doing it without all the materials I think somebody else who's got them should make that motion.
Okay, okay.
I'll make a motion to accept, what do I make a motion to accept the,
Subdivision lines.
so this is a boundary line? No, it's not a boundary line adjustment. What do we actually ask?
Not really.
What's the request?
Confirming that no further subdivision or other approval is necessary in order to convey current tracks 1 and tracks 4 in their current situation, current configuration.
So moved.
I want to I thought we were talking about tract 1.
We are, but
We are.
But the missing line is between 1 and 4.
Talking about 1 and 4.
All right, so let me go back. What was actually brought before the planning commission? Tract 1, tract 4, all the tracks? What are we?
Track 1.
We
Tract
have
1,
this,
that's what I thought. I'm happy to make a motion about tract 1 if that's what is brought before us, but I need to be clear on what the question is.
well, there are 2 remaining tracks in the Thomas parcel. Tract 1 is the one that's under contract to be sold right now. Ultimately, tract 4 is going to be sold as well. What I'd like to avoid is having to come back and re-educate you about tract 4 exactly as I've done now, 6 months or 8 months from now, so that you can basically say you can sell tract 1 and tract 4 in their current configuration and no further subdivision approval is necessary from the town. That's all I'm saying.
I'll let somebody else make that motion.
Okay, I'm going to stumble over this, but I know what you're trying to, I'm going to make a motion that we approve that track 1 and 4 are independent as drawn in 2010, and then they can be conveyed independently of each other.
Without further approval from the town.
Yeah, without any further approval from the town.
That's perfect.
It's not in 2010 though.
It was in 2010 that was done.
Well,
No, 2002, the tract in 2010 includes what is now, parcel 2.
right, it's actually 2021.
So, right,
Okay,
I
my
just
bad.
I needed to be clear on that because that wasn't what I had in my head. So go ahead
2021.
from there, Jerry.
Okay,
Sorry, I
so
discussed
I'll
before the
correct it to say rather than 2010, 2020.
Is there a second?
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And sounds like unanimous, no votes, right? Okay.
Thank you, folks. Much appreciated.
Yes, thank you for coming in and explaining it to us.
Try not to trouble you again about it.
Bumped into your mother.
What's that?
I bumped into your mother a month or two ago.
Her mother?
I was gonna have her come tonight, but I thought it was a little late for her to be out and about.
Okay, sorry we delayed the sale of one as long as we did, but
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Norman. Good hearing you.
Likewise.
See you. Thank you.
like
Take
Krista.
care.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move up to the boundary line adjustment for the Baird Levins parcels on McKinley Avenue. And get all those materials. Mr. Levins.
All right, thank you, everybody.
And you have, and there's
Yeah,
also,
my name is Jim Levins, and I represent both Augie Levins, Francis Levins, who's there, that's my son, and Carol Baird, who is the owner of the other parcel. Her family was the owner of all parcels that we're talking about. We've been neighbors of Carol Baird now and Charles Baird until he died for 17 years. And basically what this involves is a piece of property that was owned, that has been in the Baird family for a long time. As many of you probably know, the Baird family donated the parcel that is currently being reconstructed as the firehouse on McKinley Ave many years ago. And Carol's husband, now deceased, was a member of that fire department as well. So what is happening here is, and there's a couple of surveys, and I didn't make copies of all the surveys for everybody like Jim did, but maybe I can spread them out at some point, which will show you very clearly, I think, what's happening. These parcels were defined and separated as separate parcels in survey maps that were done by George Sannard back in 2008. And there are several of these surveys. And what we're talking about is the Baird house lot, which that Baird house was built in the 70s on McKinley Ave. And that parcel line is being adjusted with another Baird parcel, which is on the standard maps known as Parcel 1, Lot 1, which is standard identifies as being 14.4 acres. And so 2 weeks ago, Carol Baird transferred that Parcel 1, Lot 1 to Francis Levins. And what we seek to happen today is that the boundary line between the house lot and that Parcel 1, Lot 1 be changed. Mark Corsell has created a deed showing the result of that adjustment. And basically our estimate would be that this is a line that doesn't affect Rutland Town at all. It doesn't adjoin Rutland Town and the fire department. It's west of there. That line that's being adjusted, the only neighboring land boundary would be of Chuck Whitehead currently, and that's to the east of the Baird house lot. I can go through the surveys and show you why this is simply a boundary adjustment, because we're talking about a revision to a plat that was legally filed back in 2008, and in fact approved by the planning board on November 20, I believe it was, 2008. It creates no new building lots, and it will have no impact on any rights of way, roads or other public facilities. And the boundary adjustment, according to the definitions and the regulations, should not be considered a subdivision under those regulations. It's merely a change of the boundary line between two parcels that have already been separated and owned by Carol Baird. So I don't know if I can show you on the
How
maps.
large is that piece that's
It's either
adjusted?
plus or minus an acre. And Mark Corsell, who did the survey in January of this year, he's available by phone if you wish to talk to him about that. I gave him the instructions to come on Zoom as well. But there are some discrepancies in acreages, because the standard map shows that Parcel 1, Lot 1 is being 14.4 acres. But after the land adjustment, the acreage that ourselves shows is 13.4. So logically, one might say, well, how can they go down when you're adding acreage to it by the movement, the adjustment of that boundary line? And the explanations that I have for that are twofold. Number one, when we bought, that is my wife and I bought adjoining parcels to the east back in 2008, a part of Parcel 1, Lot 1, that is Lot B, was conveyed to Rutland Town at the back of the current facility. And that was a small parcel, it was 0.232 acres. So that came down, if standard was corrected, 14.4. Another factor that may explain that is that Hurricane Irene in 2011 moved East Creek. 1,500 feet of the boundary of Parcel 1, Lot 1 is on East Creek. So that reduced the size of that parcel. Secondly, as Mark Corsell has explained to me, it's a challenge to sort of precisely identify how much acreage is adjoining a meandering stream, because by its very nature, it's not a straight line, it moves around. But those, we believe that the Mark Corcel, markings and survey map is accurate at 13.3. We believe that he's accurate in the house lot of back Carol Baird, now being 4.3. I think I have those numbers correct. I know as I've walked out there, I saw pins that Mark Corcel put out all over. As you know, there's a power line easement by VELCO that goes through all those lots. And one other thing that needs to be done after the conveyance of Carol Baird to Frances Levins is that her septic system is actually on that lot. So you'll see on Mark Corcel's lot, he carved out a part for that septic system that serves the house lot. That was built in 1977, the septic system that is. So it's been in operation 50 years. I mean, I don't, so
we'll need to see the survey map.
Has Mark prepared a survey plat of the entire parcel?
he did, yes. And you have we filed a copy of that, but that Mylar is here. So this is Corcel's with adjustments, boundary line change.
Okay, well,
And if
why don't
you-
you start over here and we'll.
And
See what you got here.
so here is the house lot. McKinley Ave here, house lot here. And what it used to look like, yeah, this makes sense. What this used to look like was the house lot went from this corner to that corner. So there's this triangle that is being adjusted from the house lot to this lot one. So this is McKinley Avenue again.
What's the orientation, Jim? Just
So north
The
is,
north is.
is actually that way.
right, right, exactly. This
So
is
McKinley at that point is running somewhat,
north to south, actually.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay.
And yeah, it's a little bit east. And this is the power line, the VELCO.
Yeah.
It's 150 feet here. I think it's 200 and something here. Here's the firehouse in this parcel. Here is a right of way to this Frances Levins lot, which is 13.4 with the adjustment. This is a line that is common with my wife is an owner here, even though it says only me here, but that's a common line there that goes to the creek. So this was lot one, parcel one on the standard 2008 map. So and that, you see, this was approved 11/20 of 2008, which shows, I marked in red, that parcel. So you'll see like this triangle is here. So you follow that down to there. You have to go to another survey to see Rutland Town Fire Station here. This is also a standard map. And that shows this right of way that Corcel also identifies.
And further east, we have the state police, right?
Exactly,
Okay,
right.
I'm just getting my orientation.
Yep, you've got, this is Mary Ann and Jim Levin's lot, and then the state police.
It's over
DMV
here.
is right
How about
there.
you? Okay.
Yeah,
And this is the piece that your son is picking up.
this is the parcel, this
No,
piece
he's
would be-
picking up this whole parcel.
right,
This
he's
whole,
picking up
Okay.
the, if I can do
13.3.
it ends
Yeah.
up. It was this lot one, parcel one.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it goes from, I'll do yellow here, it's like that. And this is the piece that's being adjusted.
Gotcha.
This piece here. Now, it looks bigger, frankly, on the standard lot than on the Corcel lot, because that would be this piece right there.
Yeah.
Follow me?
Why is
So-
that being added, that piece?
So, yeah, it's, It's this triangle. So it would be basically that
Mhm.
parcel or that piece, that triangle.
But your question, Barbara, why is it
Why
being
is
added?
it? Yeah.
Why, yeah,
Yeah.
I had the same question.
It's not taking anything away from Whitehead.
It's taking
No,
nothing
right.
out of Whitehead. It's taking, it's really a transfer between what Baird's owned before and, you know, one piece of their subdivision to another part of their subdivision. I think the only reason for that, and you can talk to Carol and Francis about that, was it just makes, this is a flat piece of land back there, and it's for the house lot to go into the middle of that field was a little awkward because it comes almost to you know, the other side of that property. So it made more sense to follow
The contours?
that exactly, because it's flat. If there's the Baird house is on a contour, is not shown on here.
Yeah.
But it's on a hill.
Mhm.
So this line then would be more, you know, on that, I guess, west, you know, boundary of that field.
Mhm.
I noticed when I was running the bearings and distances around.
Yeah.
We were around pretty good until they got over to your property.
Yeah.
And then nothing fit. It's, I mean, yeah, and I'm sure Mark, whatever Mark has done, Mark has surveyed the proper boundary. This, I'm talking like from here, which would
Right.
be around yours. And-
Right.
And those things just, they don't, if you look at the town map,
Yeah.
the town parcel maps,
Yeah.
they're different. They're gonna be different than what you're seeing right here.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I was, you know, concentrating on that part, that's the adjustment. You know, the acreage is a little different because, you know, Standard had this at 14.4.
Yeah.
And with the adjustment, you know, properties being added, so that's why, you know, well, I was wondering, I asked Mark Carcel, how come we're at 13.4? We've added a little bit.
Right.
And his explanation was that, and I was explaining before that there's there was a little piece that came out of, oh yeah, here. So this actually happened when we bought. There was, so the town actually owned this triangle. Now this is my wife's and my property, so this is really nothing before the board right now, but it kind of explains. So the town owned this square, but Baird owned down to here. So what happened back in 2008, basically they swapped. So 0 point, I think it's 232 acres came out of lot 1, parcel 1, which would have reduced that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. But the only other explanation that Mark had for me was, you know, the Hurricane Irene, and I guess, and Carol can speak to that too. I mean, I think she knows that stream has moved.
Mhm.
To her, it didn't matter because Baird owns on the other side of East Creek also the Route 7 up to what was, you know, garden time. So
Yeah.
whether the stream moved one way or another was,
Okay.
you know, just an action.
So we'll need to look at that survey, this evening. First up, Carol or Augie, did you want to add anything at this point?
No, I think Jim pretty well explained it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready to move on and look at our list here for this adjustment? So is it satisfactory that the proposed changes?
Excuse me a
Yeah,
second.
no,
I have a concern here, and part of it, of course, is I don't have the materials in front of me. But it seems to me that we are, at this point, relying significantly on what Jim is telling us Mark Carcel said. I would feel much more comfortable if the board had something from Mark Carcel explaining it and explaining the situation and what his, I guess, revised map shows, so that we're relying on that as opposed to Jim. I don't doubt Jim. I mean, I've known Jim for years. The dealings have always been above board and always been very comfortable. But
Just a minute, okay, Norm, Jerry?
Oh, I was just gonna say, so Norm, you aren't able to see it, but we have a Mylar that Mark Corcel did all the meets and bounds of that, on that Mylar. So we do have that.
And
You're just unable to see it is all.
okay, and I did not understand that from Jim, but and
yeah,
perhaps.
and that's what we're trying to go down the list with,
Okay.
using that.
Okay,
Also,
thank you.
Jim, your property must fit what Mark has got
Thank you,
here.
Jerry.
These right here?
Yeah.
That's, I know they're different than the town map. If you look on the parcel maps, you're gonna see they're different.
Why is everybody pointing that out tonight? That issue. Okay, does the Mylar or the survey propose changes to the boundary lines? Are they satisfactory?
No, Mark did a survey. Mark is.
Yep.
he's-
Okay. Name and address of the preparer.
You've got it in
Yourself?
front of you, right, Howard?
Howard's got it.
You got it in front of you, so you understand.
What did you want on that?
And so I think I saw this, his seal.
Oh, you looking for Mark's seal?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is right here, yeah.
Yep. Numerical and graphic scale of plan, date and north arrow.
There's the scale right here.
North arrow
North arrow.
and graphic scale somewhere.
That's right here. The graphic scale is this big bar scale.
And the date,
January 3, 25.
He's got a date, January 3,
okay.
for cell survey, yeah.
Our funnest one here, existing features and facilities, including roads, public utilities, and utility easements, wooded areas, structures, water courses, ledge, wet areas, excessively steep slopes and rights of way.
Typically waive, right?
That the applicable ones,
Power line is there.
yeah. All of the applicable ones, you agree, Howard?
Yeah, we're not doing things like, I don't know if you mentioned trees
No,
or
not yet.
not trees, but ledge or something or.
Yes.
That's particularly steep.
That's nothing that we,
Yeah, so yeah, of the applicable ones in that list, which would be the easements, the roads.
There were no contour lines.
Doesn't affect any roads or.
it's got McKinley Avenue is showing right here. That's the southerly,
Okay, so
most
I'm gonna
southerly boundary.
put a yes on that one, and it's got the location map, I can see that, the
Yep.
inset.
Yep.
Okay. So I think we're ready, for the hearing, the final hearing. Everybody agree? And so we meet Jim again on the, what is that, the 13th? 13th of February?
All right,
Or 3 weeks after that. We meet every 3 weeks.
okay. That February works. I think you mentioned that too, right, Bill, yeah.
Otherwise it'll be March 6th.
Yeah, okay, great. So we'll, see you back here on the 13th.
Excellent. That's good
And
with you folks? February 13th?
Willing?
yeah, and in the meantime, Bill, what's the process? What needs to be done
Yeah, just the notices need to go out. That's about it. So,
to the neighbors, adjoining landowners?
Okay,
So the hearing is a chance for them to come.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Very good.
And then a final Mylar after that.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks, Tim.
going number 2.
All right. Jim's an expert at this stuff. I learned something.
Thank you, Carol and Augie.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
I think it's time to disconnect.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe this, for you on Zoom might be a little bit easier to follow along for the rest of the meeting. Sorry about that. Next on the agenda is an update of the subdivision ordinance, the draft subdivision ordinance. Is there an update to be had this evening?
Well,
Okay.
we met on the 8th of January. Norman and Bill and I went through the rest of section 4. Is that right, Bill?
Yep.
And we now have section 2. And is that all? Or do we have still a part of section 4,
We have
section 1?
section 2.
Section 2.
Procedure.
Section 2 or section 1?
Yeah. Let me go check my
The
notes.
procedure
Sorry.
section.
The procedure section, yep. We're
Okay.
going to meet on 2/5, that's next week at 8 AM. We finished section 4, except for 4.01. We need to finish and review that next time, and then we'll move on to section 2. There we go. That's what we have. And we've received the Mount Holly subdivision regulations that I have started going through, and I think Norman might have too. We'll be talking about those next time as well.
Night, everybody.
Like,
It's actually 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
No big deal.
2 weeks, okay, yeah, it's not the 29th, it's the 5th.
Mount Holly is the only town in the area with a subdivision ordinance and
Rutland County,
no
right?
zoning.
They are the only other one that is in a similar situation than we are, and theirs is like 10 years newer than ours, so
99.
not much better.
Not much better.
25
Okay.
years old, 26.
But may or may not be helpful.
There are some things, I haven't really done a full review, but there are some things that still apply to Kevin's observations, I think, based on my cursory look at the document that would apply to us. So it's not going to be easy to just take what they have.
Right.
Because I just caught as a glimpse some of the things that I could pick off at a glance that Kevin would be recommending we revise that appears in there. So there might be some things that are done well. I did catch a couple of things. I said, oh, we could just pilfer that as the description. But it's going to require us to take a little time to look at that, decide how we want to present it to you, and go from there. Because once we finish section 2, we're going to have to make a recommendation about what we want to do, whether we want to take the time to revise some of the sections that Kevin has said we need to rewrite, or whether we want to have Kevin do it, or one of the suggestions we had was to get another towns that we might be able to pilfer, but I don't know that that's going to be very feasible. Norman, I don't know if you have a thought about that.
I have not.
Or not. I don't know if you had any chance to look at it since Bill sent it out. It's going to be a coin toss, I think, as to whether that's useful or
So
not.
it's looking more and more like sending it back to our town attorney. Probably. For those other sections.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, on all the things he gave us suggestive language on, that wasn't it. Like, that whole section wasn't it, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
He kind of punted it to us
Yep.
about how we wanted to handle it.
What section is this?
Section
The procedure.
2.
Procedure,
Yeah.
okay.
And and there might be part of section 4.01, I think, but I'd leave that to Bill to comment on.
Okay,
I mean, there was some
Some
really good guiding
Yes.
suggestions that we have incorporated.
Right. And there's large amounts of text that's coming out.
Right.
Just in whole great big chunks that are just leaving, which is fine and necessary, but the procedure is a big part of it. That's like the process of going through from application to approval, the whole process. And that's, so he didn't give us the detail on that. He gave us all sorts of background and history, but not like just
Suggestions.
insert this language. So
I think then it should, at least that section should go back to him.
So there's that, and then there's also the league can do review, but I don't think they do suggestions. There's less expensive, but it's not necessarily like here's your suggested language. You know,
They'll point out where things need to be changed, but
right, but having the league do it is, which interest are they serving? You know, is it what's best for our guidelines, or what's best for the league to have as an insured? So I'm not sure.
So I've got another one of these quirky thoughts. Since I think I had the original thought of seeing if we could find another town like ours that didn't have zoning and was only operating on subdivision regulations. And what we found is a town that is not too far ahead of us in all of Rutland County. Is that what you said, Bill?
Yeah.
All of Rutland County. So there's not another town in Rutland County that's in our situation besides Mount Holly. And there's 26 years old.
you don't have to limit it to Rutland County.
No,
Right.
we didn't.
Right.
But
That's why I asked Devin. I was kind of surprised, but I had other priorities at the moment, so I didn't have to go back to him. But
Yeah.
so that's what my next thing was. Can we broaden it to a town that has same situation, no zoning, only subdivision regulations, and something that's been developed in the last 10 years?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the league should be able to answer that
I'll
question.
renew my request with him and have him use his contacts to see what he can find for us. So
Yeah.
Whose contacts?
Devin.
Well, that means going to 10 other regional planning commissions. I think the league could answer that question and then give you a
I don't know, but if
list,
the league may only have the towns they cover.
which is most of them.
Fair amount of them, yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well,
I don't know.
whoever's willing to do.
So I can reach out to him and at least see if he's willing to make some words.
Do people agree that 10 years would be the farthest out that we want to go?
Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so within the last, and maybe we can get more than one so that we can compare.
You know, I would think if it's not too much trouble, that if we're speaking to the league, we could ask for, 5 to 10 years. Preferably 5, and if not, 10. Then they would be most up to date, theoretically, subject to Kevin's review anyway. Just a suggestion. I suppose if we get 3 or 4 that are 10 years or newer, my concern would be addressed one way or the other. So it may be irrelevant.
How many documents, Norman, do you want this subcommittee to review?
No, I don't. I think it's been difficult enough as it is. So that was my thought. If we,
Okay.
We can say if we get 3 or 4 subdivision ordinances from other towns, we can pick out the newest one ourselves.
Okay.
So my comment really, as I went through it, is diminished in importance. Okay.
Okey doke.
Okay. That is your report.
That's my report.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's our report. I just seem
Yes.
to be the reporter. I've
Well-
been given that.
The royal your or whatever.
Oh, yeah, okay, great. Yep. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for your work again and again.
It's the gift that keeps giving.
You keep accepting it, so it's a good all around. All right, next on the agenda is the River Corridor Ordinance. We left off at section 7, I believe. Does anyone have any questions or comments from section 7 on? 7 is administration. It talks about the administrative officer. I think I mentioned it also discusses the Development Review Board, which can be a body that's simpler than that. Statute allows for a board of adjustment that's also selected by the select board. It goes through applications, actions and referrals, public notice. I'm on page 13. Number 4 under E, do we have applicants bear the cost of any of our public warnings?
Well, their application fee. Well, so any application fees we get are designed to offset administrative fees.
You may need to reword that then.
What line is that, Barbara?
Number 4 under E on page 13.
Yep, see it.
Then there's a section on decisions, permits, expiration, variances, appeals. Goes into more detail about the administrative officer's responsibilities, enforcement, and then definitions.
So I have to admit that I fell down and failed to do my homework this time.
Yeah, so why don't we, next time, take a look at section 7 and the definitions.
Yep. I wrote a note to myself, but I did not follow up.
And that's the 13th, right? So we'll
Yeah.
do that on the 13th as well. Okay, okay. On your, switching gears to the pocket park. So we're going for that state grant that's actually federal money. The application is due next Friday. Because it's a federal grant, it's a huge application. But be that as it may, I have met with Mary Ashcroft and Mike Rowe, and we've worked our way through parts of that application. I think I mentioned that the trail system has changed a little bit, and on your desk, you've got a new map. This is what will be submitted with the application. And Bill, let's see, how do I get this up online?
Go to share on the bottom of the screen there.
That's this one.
Norman, Mary Beth, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, we've redone the map. We talked the last time, I think, that we're focusing on the southern end of it, and keeping everything, in the parcel along Simons and the river. So the trail system, Mary and Mike didn't think there was enough space there for a loop. So that's just an in and out trail, if you will.
That's 10, right?
Number 10, it's got, and they want it named, so we named it the River View Trail. And there'll be picnic tables. There could be picnic tables along there. So a reason to just go in there on a short trail. And we named the trail from the parking lot to the overlook trail. And the one that goes down to the fishing access is Falls Trail, because that's right underneath the falls. And I think, it'll be ADA compliant for the Overlook Trail, but not the Riverview Trail, and certainly not the Falls Trail. That's a pretty steep, rocky thing.
So Barbara, help me, is 5 Riverview and 7 Falls? Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right?
5 is the Overlook.
5 is Overlook. Okay.
10 is the Riverview.
10 is Riverview. Yep. Okay, that's
Yeah.
Overlook
And
Trail, number 5. Yep, got it.
we'll
Yeah,
try to
I
keep,
spoke wrong. I misspoke.
and we've got the floodway, in that area of 10, but we'll try to keep tables and the trail at least out of that. So, have a couple questions for you, as I'm doing the application. I'm getting some newer quotes. Well, actually, I didn't put the fencing for the overlook in yet. I didn't put it in the pre-app, but definitely want to put it in the final app because they will pay for that. Wood, of course, is one of the cheapest options. We did a wood rail, but Mary and Mike are very concerned about the safety of that overlook. So there are some options to do some metal fences. There's a heavy duty steel and a lighter duty steel, and then there's an aluminum type fencing that would go. This would not be real tall because people want to go to the overlook to see and take pictures and all of that stuff. And this would be ADA compliant, so it'd be nice if people, if in wheelchairs, could go up to it and see over it. So it could be as short as 48 inches, 4 feet, or 42 inches, 3.5 feet. The metal ones, there would be a rail at the top. It wouldn't be like each of the posts sticking up there. Does anyone have any experience with steel versus aluminum? There's a huge cost difference.
Steel's stronger.
It'll
Aluminum is-
rust.
It'll rust, but it's much stronger. Those are the two fallbacks, I think. Aluminum would be there forever, but it's something I suppose somebody could damage
More easily.
more easily. Yeah.
Steel is probably cheaper.
No, it's much, much, much more expensive than aluminum. Even the lighter duty steel is like more than twice the cost of aluminum. You've got, like, for linear feet, and there may be, I'll have to remeasure it, but I think it's about 50 feet of fencing needed there. This is where the old Route 4 was.
Yeah.
So it's where the road was in the right of way. And there's still some asphalt left, which is kind of an issue that they might have to drill through. But wood would be $80 per linear foot. Aluminum would be $70. Lighter duty steel is about 190 per linear foot. And heavy duty steel would be about, would be 230 per linear foot. And this is even at the 4-foot level.
And how many feet do we need?
I think it's about 50. However, some of these fence people talk about kickbacks, which are, you know, they're the sides, like the wings of the main fencing, so that people can't get around.
It's also for strength. You
Okay.
can't just have the ends stop because they'd be really floppy.
Okay.
If they return, it makes a,
Yeah. And I think, according to my memory, I think it starts dropping off once we get past the 50 feet on both sides. So, I think even in that situation, yeah, they might add more sturdiness and prevent people
Yeah,
from going
getting around.
around. It gets real rocky at that point.
So my quick calculation says if you're looking at 50 linear feet, you're looking at $4,000 for wood. You're looking at $3,500 for aluminum. You're looking at $9,500 for steel, and you're looking for $11,500 on the heavy duty steel.
Yeah, and that's without the kickbacks, the wings or whatever.
a little more.
Yeah, they're thinking at least 8 feet on each side.
So that's 16 more feet.
Is there a matching from the town, or is this all done with federal money? Does the town have to match or contribute?
For this grant, there is a 20% match for the town, but there is enough town labor that will be supplied with, like, clearing the lot and those sorts of things, that we meet that match.
All right,
So this would be free and clear if we got it.
if it is free and clear, what, if any, questions do we have about going the safest route?
Well, there is a limit to what you can ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a matter of matching everything in the budget, you know, massaging all the numbers so that you stay within the maximum, which is $50,000.
If the wood's kind of out because Marion, is it the rec director?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
Mike is, I think it's a mistake to put aluminum in there. I just think it's going to be really flimsy. I mean, I think it's something that kids, hopefully they wouldn't, but they could probably bend it
Yeah.
with just screwing around and yanking on it, yarning on it.
Yeah. Well, like, what would be better than, like, split rail for wood? What kind of wood options do we have? We don't want a slat.
Composite. Also. Composite railings.
Yeah,
I think,
but we want it to be able to see through it.
Right.
Yeah, Norm?
my sense is safety of children and people in wheelchairs is paramount. And that we would be making a mistake not going with the safest alternative and trying to trim things out. Although it is 20% of the budget, if I hear the numbers correct, 20% of what we're allowed. So I don't know how much time we have to work through to see, you know, how much you can claw away from or trim off the other elements of the application to go with the safest material for the.
Yeah.
And what kind of, so heavy duty steel, but is it slats? Is it?
Yeah, it's vertical slats, and I think he said it was 4 inches, 4-inch gaps between the posts.
Okay, well, if you're adding the wings, you're talking about aluminum at 4,600, wood at 5,200, steel, just regular steel at 12,500, and heavy duty steel at 15,200.
So it's more than, it's 25% of or more of the.
You know,
Right.
Yeah, it would
Of
be
the
of
allowed.
50,000, yeah. What was the
20.
allowable?
50.
50, yeah, right. So it would be 25%.
That's, but we have, in that 50, we also have to have the trails built. We have to do all this other
Right.
stuff too, right? We have to hire people to
Right.
do that work. Like that's
Yeah, the trails should be under 10,000 because it's just not that many feet involved, linear feet.
It would be nice to have, we don't, but it'd be nice to have a bigger, but I mean, I think a perfect example of heavy duty steel would be like driving by a high school that has a backstop that's been there for 50 years. That's heavy duty steel. It's been there for it, Otter Valley, Proctor, the backstops have been there since I was in school. Same ones. That's the difference between putting something in that they're talking is heavy duty and not how long do you want it before you're going to have maintenance. I mean, it's too bad that it's so much money, but
Yeah.
Maybe it cannot be, maybe you don't put in the full amount and we come up with other money somewhere else
Right.
to pay for that.
Mhm.
if you want it to stay, I think it would be nice to come up with the money for that, but that's just,
For the heavy duty.
yeah.
Yeah, be thinking of the safety of everybody, really.
And when are you gonna have
Yeah,
to start thinking about it?
especially since the setting is a old road that just, with no bridge across the river. So an old road that comes up to essentially a cliff,
Right. We walked out, right? Yeah, I remember that.
right?
Yeah, it would be nice to, because people are going to lean on it. It'd be nice to have it be heavy duty, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
we could come up with money, maybe supplement that
the
somehow.
whole thing have to be one material, or can we say like the railings at the edge are heavy duty steel and like walkways are wood, or do we have to make it out of all of one thing?
What walkways? What do you mean by that?
Well, like where are these all going to be? Like where are these all going to end up?
There's just one fence, and that's at the overlook. At the end, where the old road ends.
You been out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was out there.
I think it's where the concrete, right, drops off kind of.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah.
we're talking about number 5, Barbara. Is that correct?
We're talking about,
it's 7.
It's just 365.
it's
isn't it?
the, Stone Gravel parking area.
Falls Trail Road.
It's 5.
Oh, it
It's
is?
5 and it's with the 3, 6 and 5, but
Oh, I see. Okay. 5 over
the
there.
6 is the clearing to the, so you can see the obelisk on the other side. And 3 is a warning board. So it's in that, it'll span what 3, 6 and 5 show up as right there. That's that 50 feet I think we're talking about. Like I said, I will remeasure that. Maybe it's, I was just measuring by the maps, the survey.
So
maybe
right now you're talking about a total linear foot requirement of 68 with the 2 wings, 8 feet on each side.
Yeah. Some people say 16 feet, but I don't think, I think it's too rocky and, yeah, Norm?
I'm just trying, will the fence be built, I'm trying to picture this, along the yellow strip? That it,
The yellow are trails.
yes,
The yellow are trails.
and this is protecting one end of that trail, correct?
Yeah,
And basically, Norm, you see where it says 3, 6, 5 right in a row, those
Yes.
round circles?
Mm-hmm.
Basically that would be the fence. In that general area where 3, 6, 5 run in a row.
So right here, Norman, with the
Okay.
cursor, we're making a circular motion with the cursor.
Yes, I see
See
it.
that?
Yes,
That's it, right by these 2 picnic tables. That's the area where,
yeah,
that would be covered by the
okay.
fencing.
Thank
yeah.
you.
So the first budget I put together only totaled 31,000. So, we could do the heavy duty. Another consideration, are the signs, and I might have underestimated those in my first budget. We're looking at, the wish list is a welcome sign at the parking lot and a kiosk as you get into that trail from the parking lot that has general information, and then historical signs, up to 3 historical signs. Probably along the River View Trail, the number 10. So I don't have numbers for those yet, but boy, they can get expensive. And you're working with 2 people. There's people that work on the design, on the, what you're portraying, which is usually now mostly laminated materials for the signs, for like the historical signs. And then there's people who work on the wood frames, structures of them. So that will have some bearing on the budget and how much we have left for the fencing, for the overlook.
Does the town have any surplus funds that they could spare for this project? I know every now and then.
Au contraire, after Mike, Mary, and I were going through the application, they were going like, why are we doing all of this work? Why don't we just use it out of the capital improvement fund? Right, exactly. There's no money in the fund? Yeah, okay. So that would be something done over time. What was your question? I thought you did.
Well, I was gonna say something when, I don't know if it was a question, but when.
Do your budget include the picnic tables?
They won't pay for picnic tables. They'll
They
pay
won't.
for all of this other stuff, but not picnic tables.
I don't think I was going to ask a question. We're putting together a budget. And we go ahead and, apply what we think is the most reasonable amount. And if we want to exceed the budget, then we just have to come up with a difference to pay for whatever it would cost to
Right.
realize the project.
Right.
So my example would be, say we, in order to get the heavy steel, we would be $5,000 short. We figure out how to pay for that, somewhere else.
Yeah.
We could take it out of the planning commission's budget and just, fork over $5,000.
Probably wouldn't
Since
even get noticed.
We're flush. I mean, that's the way I would do it. I wouldn't worry about every single detail. I would make sure that we put in what we think we need. Be as reasonable, Barbara, as you can on the budgeting part.
Yeah.
Well, in the end, it's a budget. They will approve the grant for that amount, and we can move money around as we see fit.
No,
No,
there'll be really, there'll be heavy oversight over the budget, and what you'll be reimbursed for what you said you're going to spend the money on.
every budget that I've ever written for a grant allows a certain amount, usually 10%, sometimes more, that you don't have to stick to every single line item. Are they holding us to the line item, or they hold us to the budget?
I think the line item, as I read it, it's a pretty strict thing.
Well, you can always, well, at least in my world, you've always been able to write an amendment. If you realize that your staffing, for example, on a budget
We're
is
going
coming
through that with the sidewalk. We're our Route 7 North sidewalk project, and there was 2 people that were omitted from the original staff list of one of our contractors, and they had to be addendum. We had to make an addendum to
Yep.
get them added. But it's a process, and we're better off getting it right than having to go back and.
Oh, no. I'm not saying don't get it right, but sometimes there are guidelines about how much is allowable because everything is a budget. And so usually if you go 10% over on one category and you go 10% under on another category, that's allowable. No?
Yeah, not anymore. Those days are pretty much gone. So I'm wondering,
Then the other thing is that we just pay the difference and we accept whatever they give us for.
so yeah, I'll try to make the numbers match as much as possible. Do we have a preference in priorities? Do we want the heavy duty steel for the overlook fencing and make the signs fit the budget that accommodates that heavy duty steel? Or, you know, do we cut back on?
Signs will be easier and less expensive to replace later on than the railings and the fencing will be.
Good point.
And the cost will be less.
Fencing is, just seems to me to be more important to get that right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a safety consideration and a liability issue.
Well, look at the return of the investment. Number one, it's the highest degree of safety to get the best rate of steel. And secondly, it's got a 50-year lifespan plus. So it seems better to work around, to have that and work around the rest. If I understood Bill correctly, replacing signs is not going to be that difficult financially.
Yeah.
As
I mean, we could. Yeah, Norm. And we could start off with, you know, what state historical signs look like. They're metal and they're much cheaper than using laminates and doing angled signs and all
Boston
that.
Graphics just finished some signs for us for the new building that are not metal and you wouldn't know.
What are they made out of?
They're heavy, like ABS plastic, but they are very, very good.
These are the ones with the name, the Rutland Fire Station signs, or?
It's for the front of the building,
Mhm.
but yeah, you'll when you go there, you'll notice them. But no, they're our patch, the town seal, and the flag and stuff. And it's so we have a very good relationship with them. And they are in town. If we need to replace a sign, we can go there and have a sign replaced. If we need to replace a fence, that's a whole different level of involvement.
Yeah, I should get a quote from them. Those signs are going to be in the weather, right? They're not under overhangs.
No, they're on the front facing side of the building. So
It's come a long way that what you're talking about, it's come a long way. That stuff. It's pretty amazing.
Okay. Mary Beth, are you still with us, or do you want to?
Yeah. No, this is all interesting and sounds good.
And you go along, you and Norm go along with the heavy duty steel
I certainly,
for the overlook.
Yeah, that makes sense for longevity and yeah.
And Barbara, there's more, not that you got time to do this necessarily, but that's just one company you talk to about the fencing.
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes I go with the higher end, the higher estimates.
Yeah. And then
Just
work
to
your way.
cover inflation and and.
Makes sense.
Or to do an amendment to move the money around, move some of the remaining money.
Russ Merson owns the Carpenter in Goss. He's a town resident. He's helped us with some stuff in the past too. So.
It would be nice to see what two different kind of places would offer up.
I called Predico's and I didn't realize this, but they're doing all of the Queechy Gorge work right now. They're totally, outstretched doing that. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to get back to me with any kind of a number, but yeah, there are some local companies that may have other ideas for us too. Okay. With the signs, would the priority be the welcome sign, the kiosk, or the historical signs? If it came to that, I don't think it will. I think.
Say that again, Barbara.
So if I had to make some priorities with the signs, say we go with a heavy duty steel and it pushes us. I've got some money in there for signs. I've got what I think is enough for a kiosk and 3 historical signs, but then I found out I was only getting the framework and not the actual
The actual sign.
plate that goes with them. So if we needed to make a choice, is it most important to have this is the Center Rutland Falls Pocket Park, the entrance sign? Is it most important to have the kiosk, which would have all kinds of information?
You get more information if you've got a kiosk. You can put more things in there. And the signs we could buy, the signs would be probably cheaper and you could get them later. We could add them on our own, not worry about.
Yeah, you can always put the kiosk within view of the parking lot. So okay.
I think the historical society, I like the idea of the kiosk as the prime target, so to speak. And then I like historical signs. I think they're very important. And
Yeah,
that's how I would rank them.
and we've got 2 historical groups that have written us letters of support. So there is some avid interest by the Crown Point Road Association and the Rutland Historical Society.
Maybe they'll have a few dollars to kick our way too.
Yeah, I was going to say, do they have any funds to back up their wishes?
Yeah, not sure about that, but yeah, we can ask. Okay. Great, thank you for those thoughts. Any other questions about the pocket park at this point? It looks like there will need to be a project manager. And I think Mike Rowe is going to do that. Unless, but if certain, like after town meeting day and things don't turn out where there is a full-time rec director, it may come back to you, Bill.
There's a lot less of me to go around than there used to be right now, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you again. Any announcements?
No?
Oh, that's good. Minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes of January 2nd, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let me unshare this.
I read through them. Thought they looked pretty good. I didn't catch anything, did I?
Yeah. Can't get it. Come on.
Oh, I actually did, but I'm gonna let it go.
You let it go.
I'm letting it, let it go.
Barbara, it should be at the bottom of the screen. Bottom of the top should the red box at the top.
Oh, yeah, there it is at the top of the screen. Yep.
It does not, the observation does not impede comprehension, so I'm gonna let it go.
Okay. Not sure what that means, but
But it's not going to interfere, and it's minuscule, so I'm not gonna trouble Bill with this.
okay. All those in favor of the minutes
Aye.
before you for January 2nd, 2025, say aye.
I,
Hi.
Opposed?
I'll abstain. I wasn't here.
Gary. Okay.
you good, Norman?
Yeah. Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we're adjourned. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Howard.